Welcome aboard, everybody. It's time to talk Buffalo Bills football. Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital at MC Show Digital, our handle on YouTube. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, become part of our growing community. We are presented by Northeast Roofing Professionals, NERFCNY.com, NERPCNY.com. Thank you, Boy Green. You're already nodding me right. I was like, NERF? No, NERP. It's just a fun little word to play with, NERP. I like it, NERP. NERP CNY, I should just say it that way. NERP. Sure. CNY. I just don't want people to put a U in there, so let it be NERP. Yeah. People do that with my last name. My name is Lurch. They would put a U in there, or an I. I'm like, it's Lurch with an E. E for Lurch. All right. So I don't want them to mess that up. So NERPCNY.com, the roofing professionals. Today's video sponsored by our friends at the Floral Gardens in Syracuse. And you see below us that little scroll that'll be running throughout the video. Valentine's Day this Saturday, my friends. You better get on it. It's already Thursday. You can use the code MANCHILD10 at allenfloralgroup.com and get 10% off your Valentine's Day order. So get on the flowers. Make sure you take care of your sweethearts. Okay, without further ado, it's time to talk all things Buffalo Bills football. We do that with our Bills insider from Cover One, the one, the only, Anthony Prohaska. What's up, Anthony? How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Lurch with an E.
Lurch with an E. Thank you very much. Some people even like to put an A in this. They go EA, and I was like, how does that equal Lurch?
Oh, like search? Because
You unmasked it. There you go. There is a word where if you put those two things together, it still stays as
Yeah,
okay,
that's fair.
Whatever. All right. So, anyway, welcome aboard. Talking Buffalo Bills. Obviously, everybody now has their coach in place, including your team, Anthony. So I've been reading up on Joe Brady and his early genesis here, and I'm hearing some interesting things, and it's not unfamiliar in terms of what I had heard about him before he became a head coach. And the word on the street, Anthony, is that Joe Brady is a player's coach, that Joe Brady wants to make the players happy. So let's talk about that. What do you think about that? Do you think that's a good position for a coach to take as he enters head coaching for the first time at the NFL level?
Oh, I think you can always make the case. You can devil's advocate any kind of way you want. Like, no, you need more of a stern hand. You got to be, kind of the person who's running the ship and nothing more. If you have the personal relationships, or if you're more of a player's coach, that muddies things. And then the other side is, no, you got to build the rapport and the relationship and the chemistry and so on and so forth. I don't really subscribe to either. But like you said, his MO really and it was really more pronounced when he came, he was already in the building, but when he was named as the offensive coordinator and Dorsey went out, Dorsey was more kind of robotic and just by the book with everything in terms of like football. And that was it. And then Joe Brady was more of kind of a guy you could relate to a little bit more, talk to a little bit more. I think his relationship with Josh Allen, blossomed into something positive for Allen and for him. I wonder how it'll turn out as a head coach, because at a certain point, you can be a player's coach, but you can really only do that if the culture is strong enough to police itself and you have guys who are kind of leading the way and doing what they need to. And I think the Bills do have that kind of culture, but the culture matters a ton. Otherwise, if you're like that type of player's coach, and we've seen it, you'll see it in jobs. It's not even just sports. Like you have that manager or that building who's like buddies with everybody, but nobody gets anything done, and he doesn't hold anybody accountable, but they're all buddies and friends and yada, yada. And I think that can apply to football as well, but I think they have a good culture set up. And I think Brady kind of knows the temperature of the room and what he needs to do. And his operating style kind of just is what it is at this point.
I hate to compare my own illustrious coaching history to the NFL and Joe Brady, but I'm going to do exactly that, okay? Here's what I always found useful, all right? So when I was coaching back in the day, and I was coaching youngsters, not adults that make millions of dollars, so clearly there is a difference, but I do still think coaching is coaching. People are people, okay? And by the way, those kids had parents, so I was dealing with adults a lot of times. What I did,
play my kid. Why are you not playing my kid?
It was a really smart strategy, and I think it applies all the way up the ladder to the NFL. And that is, I had an assistant coach, my best friend Mike Foley, very good man. And I said to Mike, when we started this coaching thing together, which him and I think did together somewhere in the neighborhood of 7-8 years, okay? I said, you're going to be the buffer between me and the players, me and the parents. I'm going to be the guy that kind of lives a little bit more in the ivory tower, but I'm making all the decisions. I'm going to let you know about those decisions. Obviously, we'll talk about them together, but then you're going to be the guy that the players are going to come talk to, because I'm always going to have my wall up, and they're going to be a little bit hesitant to want to talk to me because I'm the boss. You don't want to go right to the boss. Oh, but I could talk to the sergeant because he's my buddy. He's my friend. I said, so I want you to get close to the players. I want you to buddy up with the players. I want you to be the guy that's the snuggly guy that puts your arms around the players.
Infiltrate them and
or,
build their
back when they have an error. That's your role. Your role is pat them on the back when they make an error. Give them the rah-rah when they're accomplishing things. Be the guy that buddies them up. And then they're going to come to you, and you're going to let me know what's going on at all times. So I'm always in the loop, but you're going to be my buffer zone. And it worked tremendously, Anthony.
Wow.
It was just a recipe for success for me, right through the parents. Even the parents would go and complain to him initially, and then I would know what to expect before the parent finally came to me and said, my son Johnny wants to play shortstop, and you keep playing him in right field. And I said, okay, well, I was prepared. I was prepared to answer that question and not blindsided, like, well, sorry, Johnny really isn't very good, and he can't catch the ball. Therefore, he's going to play shortstop. Okay, that's the real truth. But instead, I could say, yes, I understand that. I know that a lot of the players want to play different. I could be, dare I say, that person. So I found that to be really, really helpful. I actually think, Anthony, and this is just my personal viewpoint, that it's dangerous to be a player's coach, especially with these multimillionaire guys, because in the beginning, it can be great. You develop a relationship, everybody loves you. And then the first contract dispute, the first playing issue, the first benching, the first discipline you got to put out there. How do you do it and still be their friend? I'm going to discipline you, but I'm your friend. Mike never disciplined anyone. I did all the disciplining. And then he could always say, oh, well, sorry, that was Jim. Okay, go talk to Mike again. Michael, go talk to Mike. He'll take care of it.
So Mike was a human shield and a double agent to infiltrate the inner workings of these kids and their parents. So you could, wow. All right.
You're the fantastic system.
You're totally, Wizard of Oz in this thing, behind the curtain, puppet master pulling the strings. Okay. This is intense.
All right, Pete, look at PG. He's like really mulling.
Paul seems very judgy about this.
Right. Well, I mean, I didn't know if you were then going to transform it into a question for Anthony. That's what I was waiting.
No, I heard his opinion about players coach, and I have a feeling about players coach. I think it's a bad idea. That's my point.
Yeah, I think it's something that definitely can it can go sour. Because to your point, as soon as there's like a crack in that thing where well, we're buddies. How come? I think it's like I have encountered this in day job things. It's like, what do you mean you didn't grant my vacation day? Like, come on, we're like boys. It's like, yeah, but that doesn't work because X, Y, and Z and blah blah. It's like, yeah, but we're it's as soon as kind of the shoe is on the other foot type of deal, or as soon as something doesn't gel the exact right way, it's like, yeah, but we're friends, we're buddies. Oh, so okay, screw you, guy. That it has the potential to kind of blow up or be an issue. But I also think with some things I think maybe in this instance, maybe you're Brandon Beane and maybe Mike is Joe Brady. Maybe Joe Brady gets his own Mike to kind of buffer further. But I think people know Brady is, again, the coach and guy who's running the ship, but maybe Beane is more of, the lurch in this situation and Brady's the Mike. Maybe Brady needs to get himself a Mike, but yeah, it's a fair comp there.
And the other thing I would say is Brady's age. I mean, that plays into it too. I mean, he's literally the same age as some of the players. Okay. He's in his late 30s, so he's not far away from being the age of a lot of the players. Yeah. So he's close in age, and that makes it even more difficult to lead, I think, in a lot of ways, because, you're so close. I do think there is something about having a little more wisdom, being around the block a little bit more, having done it in a few other places. And I always felt, you tell me if I'm wrong, did McDermott kind of keep his distance a little bit, or did you feel like he was genuinely, a player's coach and close to the players? Give me a thought about where McDermott landed.
I think Sean McDermott ran a tight ship from an expectation standpoint, a culture standpoint, but everybody knew where he stood. It was a very consistent message. He was very regimented. You hear him talk, that he is about business. Hey, if we're starting at 9, he's that guy. You need to be there at 8:50 or 8:55 because we're starting right at 9. Everybody and he brought that into his scheme. Everybody, he valued guys who he knew where they were going to be and when they were going to be there and so on and so forth. But I think within that, he was a guy that the players respected. He had, for the most part, again, there's always going to be outliers or guys who it doesn't work with, but I think more often than not, he had the respect of a lot of guys in the room. He had their ear. And there was a reason why, veterans wanted to come to this team and rookies were excited to get drafted to the Bills. And it was because of the culture McDermott established, what he brought in, how he built the team up, the expectations that he set up, the system that he set up from, again, a culture standpoint, an off the field standpoint. This is how we do things. This is why we do things. So he was very regimented. I think he was much more boss than he was friend, but I think he was a guy who still built rapport and chemistry with guys. And despite how regimented he was and structured he was, you knew that he cared for the players and you knew that he cared for you. So I think he was just a kind-hearted, strong-willed, regimented dude, but he had the respect of the team for the most part.
See, I would say it was the same way. I was exactly the same way. I had the buffer. But that's exactly the way it was. Go ahead, BG.
Yeah, let me. I'm going to get my pen.
I'm not Joe.
Yeah,
I'm Sean.
Yeah. There you go. It's good to make sure we can, distinguish between the two. Okay,
Just why I should have fired Sean. I'm just going to go on the record and say that if I haven't. Go ahead.
Well, if I knew that Joe Brady was at the other end of the other rainbow, maybe a lot of people would have that different take. But anywho, I'm going to use this pen as a fake mic, and then I'm going to ask a question into it, and then I'm going to point that pen in the direction of Anthony Prohaska.
Excited.
I'll make sure I can do this. Okay.
Oh boy, this feels like a trap. I don't like this at all.
It does.
He's way too excited. I don't like this. I don't like where this is. It's a trap.
Anthony, just here for the press conference. A quick question here. How do you feel that Sam Darnold was the first quarterback from the 2018 draft class to win a Super Bowl, which means he did it before Josh Allen? Your thoughts?
It doesn't bother me at all. Sam Darnold was actually my QB1 in that year, and my stance has always been, if he had gone to a competent franchise and not an absolute dumpster fire that ruined him for the beginning of his career, I think he would have had much more success in the NFL. I don't think it's just because of the Shanahan system, which, the Kubiak system ties to, and like how it sets up quarterbacks for success, which it does. But I know the turnovers were the big thing with him in USC coming out, but he was my QB1. I wanted Sam Darnold to fall to the Bills. And I'm not sitting here saying that now, like, oh, see, I was right, blah, 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 because this Seahawks team was really good. You could have plugged in a bunch of different quarterbacks, but I never thought Sam Darnold was as bad as he was when he was starting out with the Jets, and I thought he could be a very capable to good starter in the league, and I'm sincerely very happy for him. He got dragged through the mud for years, like even all jokes aside, not just with the Jets stuff, but even with what happened with the Vikings last year. They go 14-3, they get bounced in the first round, and it's like, well, yeah, because Sam Darnold sucks, Cinderella, the carriage turned back into a pumpkin, blah, blah, blah. And he goes out and he has a really, really good year. And he ends up getting a Super Bowl ring. I'm super happy for him. And I'm interested to see kind of where he continues to go. Because again, I always thought, and it's not even just for Sam Darnold or like the Jets, again, in all seriousness, like I think environment and ecosystem matters so much for what these players become in both good and bad ways. Because when you get to the NFL, majority of the time, everybody's like good and everybody's good at football. Everybody's strong and fast and athletic. Granted, there's different layers of variables, but it's the mental stuff, right? How do these guys see the game and understand the game? How do they prepare? But also tied into that is, what type of culture do they get into? What type of system and fit do they get into? And if you take a guy and you plug him into a system or a culture or an ecosystem to kind of put it all together that isn't advantageous or is toxic or is muddy or is poisoned, you tend to see guys get poisoned and guys kind of fall apart. And I think that was him kind of early on. And I'm happy for him to kind of pull things together and get a ring.
All right, let me tap Mike again.
Sure,
I've got another question, separate topic. Anthony Prohaska, thanks for having us. How much pleasure did you take in watching the AFC East rival New England Patriots lose in the Super Bowl to the Seattle Seahawks, a team that a lot of people said had a cupcake schedule, didn't deserve to be there, and it was a bunch of BS and malarkey? Your thoughts?
I want to answer that with a statement towards you where I think you're taking a lot of pleasure in the Patriots getting smacked in that Super Bowl. Yeah, I shot. Oh, me? What? I got to tell you, when it was 19-7 and the Patriots had the ball, I had a sinking feeling like, oh no, they're going to come back because this is.
We've seen this song and dance before.
Yeah, I've seen this. I've seen this movie. I know how this ends. But yeah, this movie and this season finale ended much better than the season finale of Stranger Things, which was absolutely terrible. But I was happy. Yeah, I thought the Patriots, I thought they were good. I thought they would finish second in the AFC East to start the year. I thought they had a chance to make the playoffs. I thought they could be like a 9, 10, maybe even 11 win team. I did not think they were as good as their record showed. But again, I mean, they beat the Bills early in the year. They won the games they needed to win. They won in the playoffs, but I think there was a lot of fortuitous bounces that kind of went their way. And so just kind of, I was happy that they lost. The only thing I was really disappointed with was, again, I wanted them to lose more than anything, but it was very boring for a lot of the game just because the Patriots looked so inept. But it was also fun because the Seahawks were just attacking their protections and blitzing Devin Witherspoon, and their front four was eating and doing all this cool stuff. But yeah, it was nice to see them lose. And it's funny how fast the discourse changes. Now it's like, oh, Drake May is like a paper tiger and all the stats are hollow. He was never really that good. Let's dissect everything. It's so funny how narratives change in the blink of an eye.
All right, one more. Just one more question with my Penn press conference question here. It's a follow up on the Patriots thing. We've Anthony, thanks for having us here.
I'm obligated to be here.
Yeah, thank you. On a week-to-week basis, every Thursday, the Manchild Show, Boy Green Digital. Like the video, hit subscribe. Growing. It's a very popular show. It's getting a lot of clicks, lots of clicks. Very phenomenal. Anywho, Anthony Prohaska, there have been teams that have reached the Super Bowl, and people say, don't worry, you'll be back. The Carolina Panthers, the Atlanta Falcons, and spoiler alert, those teams did not come back, Anthony Prohaska. So now I ask you this question. With the New England Patriots fans telling us before the Super Bowl, other dynasties here, Dan Marino said, can't wait to go back to one of these. Spoiler alert, he never went back to one of those. So will Drake May and the Patriots fold like a cheap suit, or will they immediately be back in the Super Bowl conversation as Mike Vrabel was patting them on the back as they went into the locker room? Your thoughts?
I think they have cap space. They have some holes. They're able to kind of address some things with this team, but I just think it's hard to get back. That's why it makes what the Chiefs have been doing like so impressive year after year. If the Patriots dynasty before that, the Dan Marino is the example I always go to. It's his second year in the league. They go to the Super Bowl. They get waxed by the Niners. And if you're a Dolphins fan, though, you're sitting there like, that's fine. We're ahead of schedule. Like Dan Marino in year 2, we got Shula. Like, oh man, like this is going to be great. And he never gets back to a Super Bowl ever. Granted, the Bills had a significant hand in that. You just never know how things are going to go and how things are going to turn. And I kind of tied that back to, 13 seconds with the Bills and losses with the Bills over the years, or any sports team. Like even when it's all, man, like it doesn't matter what sport you're in. Like, oh, our core is so young and we're on the upswing and the upward trajectory. Everything really looks great. A lot of things need to fall into place for a team to reach a championship, especially in a sport like football where it's single elimination. There is no series in the playoffs where it's like, oh, okay, we lost game 1. Let's course correct and figure it out. No, if you have a bad day, or if the weather isn't cooperating, or if you have injuries at the wrong spot, you're doomed. If you lose, you're done and you're packing and it's on to the next season. So I'm not sitting here ready to bury the Patriots and saying like, oh, they're done and they're never going to get back. But I would never bet on a team to repeat and get back just in general. I'm always going to take the field because the odds are more in their favor. It's hard to get back, and we've just seen it happen too much. Aaron Rodgers is another one too. You're sitting there thinking, oh, Aaron Rodgers and that Packers teams, they're probably getting to multiple Super Bowls. He got to 1, and that's it. And he never got back again. Maybe granted, he should have, ironically, with that Seattle team when they had that crazy loss in the, I think, NFC Championship.
Correct.
Yeah, you just never know. It's so hard to be able to kind of do that year in and year out.
Talking with Anthony Prohaska, the Manchild Show with Boy Green Digital at MC Show Digital. We are presented by Northeast Roofing Professionals, and today's video brought to you by our friends at the Floral Gardens. So with Valentine's Day approaching, you see a little crawl beneath us. You could save 10% by using the promo code MANCHILD10 at allenfloralgroup.com. They have 6 locations, so find out the one that's nearest you. You could have those flowers delivered just like I am. Coming tomorrow. Shh, don't tell her. All right, let's find out a little bit more about our sponsors. Then we're back more with Anthony Prohaska. I want to talk to him about, are they going to trade the Drifter? I'll uncode that when we come back.
Finding the right local roofing company can be tricky. You don't want to hire the wrong roofers, or you could end up spending a fortune on repairs. The pros at Northeast Roofing Professionals can ensure your home is protected by a strong and sturdy roof. Locally owned and operated, over 30 years experience, free estimates, and competitively priced. Don't settle for an inexperienced roofing contractor. Turn to Northeast Roofing Professionals. Discounts for military and first responders. Reach out and let them put a sturdy roof over your head. NERPCNY.com. NERPCNY.com.
that dude just kept going in and out of the store, man. He got a lot of stuff for his girl. That
Wow.
was fantastic.
Yeah. Good for her, I guess.
Yeah.
But speaking of that, Lurch, one more time. Excuse me.
Not the pen again. What's the pen? Should I hold up a pen now? This is
it feels good.
Speak to me.
Yeah.
Talk to the pen. What's going on here?
Anthony Prohaska. Obviously, this season for the Buffalo Bills was a tremendous failure. There's one winner, there's 31 losers, and the Bills were one of those 31 losers. They win the Super Bowl, but
at least his team was in it for a while.
Appreciate that.
Cool. I guess we give out blue ribbons at the state fair. Anywho, my question
haven't seen
is
a ribbon for years of any kind.
That feels unrelated to my question, Anthony Prohaska. But anywho, the question to you,
the Jets hat with the Jets shirt.
The question, Anthony Prohaska, is while this season was that epic failure we just pointed out for the Buffalo Bills, in the spirit of Valentine's Day and a 10% off discount code, which again is on the scrolling ticker if you're watching the Manchild Show at Boyd Green Digital, Manchild 10. Again, you guys can do that right now at allenfloralgroup.com. Again, that's allenfloralgroup.com. Who would you like to give flowers to on the Buffalo Bills? Someone that deserves flowers that maybe didn't get them this season and deserves some extra love. And again, I'll give you the Manchild 10 bonus coupon code that you can use before you give these flowers to said Bills player or coach. But who would you give them to that didn't get enough love this season? Anthony Prohaska.
Oh, man.
Is that a great question or what?
That is a great question because I feel like there weren't a lot of players or people who deserved a ton of love, and the ones who did get it, the ones who did get it, got it. Like, I guess I'd probably, and someone's going to yell to be like, oh, he fumbled in the game against the Broncos. I'd probably say James Cook because I don't think he gets, like, the guy led the league in rushing, and I don't think he gets talked about in any way like he did that. Like, it's always like, James Cook's he gets mentioned kind of almost as an afterthought or like in passing. But so much of this season was, McDermott or the defense or the roster or Josh Allen and like the receivers and Josh Allen and the receivers. And I said it going into that Denver game. And again, he fumbled, which was unfortunate. But I think James Cook just really, he was the engine for this offense. The run game is what made the offense go. And again, the offensive line is a significant part of that. Aaron Cromer was a significant part of that. But I don't think James Cook, I think he gets some. I don't think he gets enough kind of flowers. I don't think he gets enough due. Again, the guy led the league in rushing, and I don't think he gets talked about as a guy who led the league in rushing. And they have a good run game. They had a good system, but he played above that in a lot of ways and turned 5 into 10 and turned 10 into 50 and did a lot of stuff like that. So, I don't think he gets enough flowers.
Talking with Anthony Prohaska, our Bills insider. So, Anthony, the offseason is upon us. Teams are going to start constructing their rosters. And obviously with the draft and the combine coming out, all that young talent. But then there's the older talent and what you're going to do. And trades have become more prevalent in the NFL as well. So, again, reading up on the Buffalo Bills and their potential offseason moves, one of the things I read about was Dion Dawkins, a.k.a. the Drifter. That's because of car racing, not because he's some kind of vagabond. Okay. There's a thought here that if the Bills traded Dion Dawkins, a guy who has kind of been a pillar of this Buffalo Bills franchise in the last bunch of years, that they could save a lot of money and it might be a good move. So give me your take on that. Is there any there to this? And would it be wise for the Bills to jettison off Dion Dawkins, a.k.a. the Drifter?
No, I wouldn't think it would be wise. You've got Connor McGovern and David Edwards, your starting center and your starting left guard, respectively, who are both UFAs this offseason. So you need to fill 2 spots on your offensive line as is. Then you're looking at Osiris Torrance. Do you want to extend him? Do you not? Kind of what's happening in that type of world. The only thing that's really kind of keeping the line stable right now are your 2 bookends. You got Spencer Brown on the right and you got Dion Dawkins on the left. So I don't think it makes a lot of sense to trade him in any way, shape, or form from an on the roster standpoint. And then even from a monetary standpoint, if they traded him before June 1st, it's a $21 million cap hit, only 2.9 in savings. So 21.9 million in dead cap. So essentially 2.9 in savings. And then even post June 1st dead cap, 8.5 million this year, 13.9 million next year, but you do save 16.3 this year. So I don't think the cap numbers make a lot of sense. And then on the field, it makes even less. So no, I would not be a fan of that. And I wouldn't expect it.
All right. Speaking of the big men, though, you mentioned the 2 pending free agents for the Buffalo Bills. What's the talk amongst Bills Mafia that the Bills plan on bringing one or both of them back? Are they cool letting them walk and, sort of, replacing them in a different way? Because a big piece of the Buffalo Bills puzzle has been the continuity on the offensive line. That's been a strength of the Buffalo Bills for some time. So to see 40% of the starting unit potentially walk out the door, yes, Mama, I did that math by myself. That seems interesting.
Nice. I think if you ask most Bills fans, they would like to keep the status quo, right? Keep everything as is. It's a good offensive line. They've done a good job. Let's keep it together. In terms of bringing them back, I think if you ask most fans, they're using, cap websites like Spot Track and Over the Cap, and they're seeing market values. And so it's like, oh, wow, like Connor McGovern's projected to get this much. That looks like too much. Oh, David Edwards is going to get this much. That seems like too much. Can we keep one? Are we going to get neither? I also think a lot of fans are looking inward, and it's okay. Can Cedric Van Pran Granger, is he that center in waiting and he's ready to go? Is Alec Anderson cool to start at left guard, or is it somebody else who's already on the roster? They've had this good amount of like bench and depth talent on the offensive line for a couple of years that we've seen manifest in different ways, like performances in the preseason or 6 offensive linemen sets when they've used it, right? Like David Edwards was used in the 6 offensive lineman stuff a couple years ago, and then he got plugged into the starting role. And then it was like, oh, cool. And then Alec Anderson became the 6th offensive lineman. So now it's like, okay, does that natural succession plan continue to build? Where do you have to answer? I think it's one of the bigger questions for this offseason. So much is going to be talked about, Jim Leonard and the defense and new body types and archetypes and skill sets that they're bringing in and play styles. And then what are you doing at wide receiver? And what are you doing at wide receiver? And what are you doing at wide receiver? But tied into that is, the offensive line. Do you have the answers in-house? And if not, where are you getting those guys? Are you spending in free agency because you don't have a ton of money regardless? Or are you dipping early in the draft process? Do you use the draft to get, a starting guard at the end of round 1 and your center in, round 2 or 3? You can find good offensive linemen, especially on the interior on day 2. And there's some guys available in this class. So I think it's a really interesting kind of storyline and domino piece for this offseason, but also for the season next year, considering how important the offensive line has been these past couple seasons.
Well, Adam Schefter says he thinks that this is going to be a fascinating offseason, Anthony, for teams. And here's what he said on his podcast yesterday, that he anticipates teams will be willing to deal on the trading block because of the lack of talent in free agency and draft class pools. And here's his exact quote: "I don't know if that'll happen, but it certainly seems to be a trend in recent years. Teams have been more apt and more open to make big trades. Teams are unafraid about making a big deal. And with this free agent class in the eyes of some considered to be a little bit subpar, and with the draft class considered to be in the eyes of some a little subpar, it wouldn't surprise me if we saw an uptick in trade activity." So is that good news for Brandon Beane and the Bills that Adam Schefter is predicting the trade wins will be aplenty?
It depends on I think it always depends on what you're looking for and what team, what kind of build you have. I don't think this draft is particularly loaded. Again, I'm just starting to get into it, but I don't think it's loaded with, top tier blue chip kind of guys, but there is a good amount of depth and effectiveness throughout this class. Like, I think this is another one where if you're sitting there on, like pick 15 to like 70, you're going to get like a good football player at a variety of positions. It depends on what you're looking for and what you need. But if you're looking for, the right answer at the right time for this top tier dude, that's the hands down answer for anyone, I don't know if that really exists across the board for most teams. But as far as the trade pieces, it depends. If you're the Bills and that's kind of the feeling, right? Our team's going to be willing to take your draft capital for a player that they have. If they think that this draft is kind of meh, are they going to care that you're offering them a 2nd round pick or a 3rd round pick? Like, because if the class isn't great, then who cares? If you're giving me, oh man, like this food is terrible, would you like some? What? Why would you just tell me it's bad? I don't want any of that. So I wonder, I do think trades are increasing year after year, which is super fun to see. As like a baseball fan and a hockey fan, it was always awesome. Like trade deadline day and like baseball and hockey was always so awesome. And then like trade deadline would come for football and it was like, nobody's getting moved. No one cares. And then I remember Aqib Talib, I think that he was a deadline deal going to the Patriots from the Bucks, I believe. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the first, I was like, oh, somebody of significance kind of like moved. And now we're starting to see more off-season deals. We get trade deadline deals in general. so I think it's fun from an activity perspective. But for the Bills, it's still going to come down to cap space, and then tying it into the draft class. I think it makes it still muddy.
I pondered whether or not I was going to pick up this pen mic one more time, but
do it.
I'll...
Don't be a coward. There you go. Commit.
All right,
commit
great.
To the bit.
Anthony, again, this is great. I haven't had this many questions at a press conference in a while, so appreciate it. I appreciate you stepping up to the plate here. I just hit the Google search on overthecap.com, and it says the free agency cap space, that is available for a lot of teams. And I had to scroll a while, Anthony Prohaska, and then I see all the way down here. There they are. The Buffalo Bills have negative $7.5 million. How concerning is that, Anthony Prohaska?
Well, it's not ideal. Like, you don't want to be negative, and obviously the more cap space you have, the better. But
that's what I've been told.
Nothing like building a roster with no money, huh?
Sure. Yeah.
True. Very true. Or nothing like building a roster with jettisoning off your best players onto the defensive line or the cornerback room. #Jets.
Hashtag.
But I think there's ways for them to kind of get around it. We've seen it at this point. I feel like even casual fans kind of know the tricks of the trade and what you can do for moving money around with restructures and extensions and converting base salary to signing bonus and how that prorates and all that stuff. There are significant, cut candidates on this team already that exist on the offensive side and defensive side. So there's a significant amount of levers they can pull to get into the positive, have some space, and be able to make moves. Are they going to be flush and have like $50 million worth of space to go out and spend? No, but they very realistically can get to a spot where they can make significant moves. They can address the spots on this team between free agency and the draft. It might not be ideal or the splashiest or the sexiest at the time, but there are very realistic and somewhat easy ways for them to get into the positive, and not only get into the positive, but create some space to be able to make some moves.
Anthony, my last one is on the new stadium. So obviously the Bills will be moving into their new stadium this year. By the way, I'm hearing that they're ahead of schedule. Oh my God, a construction project ahead of schedule. But there are detractors out there. One of the key arguments that detractors will make is that they didn't go retractable roof. We know why Buffalo and why that organization wants that. They feel like they have an advantage. Although, a retractable roof, it could just be closed actually when it's snowing before the game, and then you could open it up and have it open at all times during games. So it doesn't mean you have to play in a closed environment if indeed you have a retractable roof. So for those that are arguing that side, I could make that argument that you could still have the best of both worlds. But there's a picture of it while it was still under construction. It's a little bit further along now. Thanks for putting that up there, Boy Green. But the fact of the matter is that the one thing that I do think is a concrete, fair critique is the fact that there's 10,000 less seats in this building than is in Highmark. That's a little surprising to me. So what is the scuttlebutt from Buffalo Bills fans on the new stadium? Is it genuine excitement, or are we hearing mixed reviews, even though we're not even in the building yet?
I think it's mixed reviews. I think there's genuine excitement to see the new stadium just for the sake of new. Anytime there's something new, people are like, "Oh, new!" Like, it's same thing with free. Oh, free? Like, what? I want to see what that's about. So I think people are excited for the newness of it. We've talked about it a bit on the show before too. I do think there is a good amount of negativity from an expense cost, like, having to pay for the seat licensing and then also having to pay for your tickets, how more expensive the tickets are this year. It costs a pretty penny to get into the stadium now. And a lot of folks are unfortunately kind of getting priced out who have had seasons for years or who are looking to get into it. They can't get into it. So I do think there's a heavy amount of that, which is super unfortunate. And then you tie in, the seating aspect as well. That's my biggest thing. Like, I always like that. Granted, it's changed now a bit as stadiums have gotten bigger, but I always liked the stadiums that had like the biggest capacity. Now, you knew like, okay, like how many seats does Penn State hold, and Michigan? And then the NFL was like Kansas City Stadium. And I knew the Bills were at the top of the league for a while. And I think for this now, if I remember correctly, I think they kind of did what more newer stadiums do in general, which is like they created more suite seating, I think, or suite areas, which reduces how much like regular volume seating you can have in favor of having people in the suites, or the boxes, the luxury boxes, however we're kind of verbalizing it, which I think is unfortunate. Like, I wanted to be 70,000 plus or around that area. Now they're more like 62, 63-ish, I believe. Yeah, if I'm correct. Yeah, thank you. So I wanted them to stay around the 70s, especially if you're going like, what the home field advantage is. Let's keep it that way. So yeah, now you're getting like 10,000 less people in the building roughly for every game, and it's more expensive. So I think it's kind of in the middle. Depends on who you ask. I do think overall there's a healthy amount of excitement, but I do think there's a healthy amount of frustration and detraction happening around the cost and just some of, kind of how everything came together with it and how it's moving forward.
And there were a couple of interesting things. I mean, one of them, and you saw it when Paul put up the picture there, is that, the stadium kind of capes over part of the stands. They say that 60% of the seats will be somewhat covered, which would mean, again, less snow on the seats when it does snow. They'll still need people to come in there and shovel when we get some, nasty weather, and Buffalo certainly gets that during the football season. Quite often, so that will still be an element for fans to come in and make a few bucks.
Yeah,
Shovel up or volunteer to shovel. Do they get paid for that? Or do they
they do.
volunteer?
Usually they offer.
They never
I
get
forget
paid,
how much they offer, but yeah, usually they'll give you like $20 an hour or something, maybe a little more, and then they'll give you food and drinks and everything too while you're doing it. I also think that whole canopy thing, like from the weather perspective, but it also like the way the stadium is designed, that's tied into it. Like it cuts out the wind that is going to be able to like swirl through. So it's like scientifically designed to kind of break that up a little bit as well, which I think is a cool feature. I'm a fan of outdoor stadiums. I know the whole, like, let's move to a dome and get everybody in a dome and keep everything equal. I do agree that the way the weather turned in the AFC Championship made that game kind of really unwatchable and really unfortunate. And that's like the extreme example of it. But I don't know. There's no scientific reason behind it, but playoff football, I want the cold, I want the mud, I want the elements. I don't want a blizzard, but give me some snow falling, give me some cold. I want to see it, feel it, and have it be experienced.
All right. Actually, I do have one more, just because we're talking about stadiums here, Anthony. We won't know the answer to this question, March, April, May. All right. Yeah, we got a bunch of months coming up here before the schedule is going to come out, but we know the opponents for the Bills. Yeah. Do you have one circled? Folks, for those that are watching here on YouTube, the red on top of your screen are the home games set for the Buffalo Bills. They have 8 home games, 9 away games this season, 17 games. That's how it works. So you have the divisional opponents in there, but obviously all the other ones as well. Do you have a preference of who you want to be the first home opponent in the brand new stadium in 2026? Or have Bills fans been talking about it and thinking about like who that could be? Because there's some sexy, there's big games like Chiefs and Ravens and Lions. There's divisional rivalries if that plays a bigger factor. Is there one you have circled, one you would want to see?
Oh, I really think you can make a case for 4 of them more than others, right?
Okay.
Kansas City is Kansas City, right? But Mahomes might not be ready for the start of the season.
Right. So would the schedule makers factor that and say, you know what, let's save this because that gives him a greater chance of being back? That makes sense.
Exactly. So I wouldn't think that would be the home opener at the new stadium because Mahomes probably isn't going to be ready. Baltimore, new coaching staff, Lamar Jackson, like that Ravens-Bills rivalry has gotten really intense. I think the Ravens could make a lot of sense. Patriots, they beat you at home last year. They are the reigning kings of the AFC and the AFC East. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think the Dolphins also makes a lot of sense just from a nostalgia standpoint. Bills Dolphins is still, I think, the rivalry that defined a lot for this fan base. Patriots Bills wasn't really a rivalry because the Patriots just used to kick the Bills' teeth in left and right for a majority of those years. But the Dolphins are on the downswing. So it's like, how interesting is that? Is it more just a nostalgia feel or is it kind of a good game? So I feel like you're really looking at Patriots Ravens as that home opener. And I could see one of those being like actually kind of similar to what it was this past year, Sunday Night Football, that opener at the Bills Stadium. They're hosting that week 1 Sunday night game and it's against Baltimore or it's against New England, maybe. And again, if Mahomes was healthy, I think the Chiefs would be right up there, pretty equal. But right now I'm going to say Baltimore and New England, probably lean more towards New England, like 55-45 New England versus Baltimore.
Wow. All right. Overlooking the Jets in that mix. Interesting. That's a choice.
I don't overlook anyone at any point in time, but I don't even think ever, you might be able to speak this more. Obviously you're a Jets fan. Like, I know I'm not going to say this in the next one. I don't think even when the Jets were good, I don't really think they ever like Bills Jets. I don't think has ever surpassed Bills Dolphins for Bills fans. And I don't think Bills Jets has ever surpassed Bills Patriots. And so from a Jets perspective, you're number one. It's Jets Patriots, right? Like that's the top one.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
And then where do the Bills fall? Like, do the Jets? Do you hate the Dolphins more than the Bills? Do you care? Like, I wonder that because like I feel like the Jets are a firm third from a rivalry perspective in the division from a Bills point of view?
Yeah, so it depends on the age of Jet fans you talk about, because obviously Dan Marino and Jets, that was very heated, and you had Ken O'Brien and Marino having those great back and forth games. So like, those older Jet fans hate the Dolphins' guts. Modern Jet fans hate the Patriots' guts for obvious reasons. So the Bills stuff has been spotty, right? The last time the Jets had a chance to make the playoffs, the Week 17 game in Buffalo with Ryan Fitzpatrick come back in against Rex Ryan. So that's one that Jet fans have in their horrific memories of in the middle of this playoff drought that could have ended right then and there. They beat the Bills. They're in. There's nothing else they needed. That was all they needed. So that adds a little bit of an extra element. But to be honest, the Bills are probably third in how Jet fans view it as well. So we both see each other as third. There you go. Blue ribbon. Nice.
That's fair. So everybody gets a ribbon. Yeah. And I think that kind of factors in too. Yeah. It's like, okay, it's a division game, but it's always like, okay, the Jets. And even again, it's not because like, the Jets are currently bad. It's always just been like, the Jets. Like and again, from an age standpoint, if you're my generation, you hate the Patriots more than anything because they were always beating you. And then the older generation was the 70s and 80s Bills fans that were getting waxed by, the Greasy and Shula Dolphins in the 70s and that whole crew and Zonka and them. And then the 80s, it was Marino. But then the 90s Bills fans and adults carried that rivalry, but from a positive perspective, because it was like, now the tables are turned. We're always in the Dolphins' way. Marino and crew can't get past Kelly and crew. Now we're on top. But that's still very much like, I remember growing up and like you'd go into like the mall and you'd go to like Sears or JCPenney's or something. And there would be a bunch of like 90s style merch for like Squish the Fish and like a buffalo grilling a dolphin on a grill. And you didn't see that for like the Patriots. You didn't see that for the Jets. And then we go forward and the Patriots, surpass. But the Jets have really kind of just always been in the back there. I don't think Bills fans like the Jets, but I don't think there's that intensity in any way from a nostalgia standpoint or a logistical standpoint. But you never know. If the Jets turn it around and they go worse to first like the Patriots did this year, we could be sitting here having a whole different conversation.
Fascinating being a fly on the wall for this one. Very, very good, gentlemen. All right, Anthony Prohaska, as always, a pleasure to talk to you. We'll talk to you again next week, my friend.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate you.